Ooh, it seems like the average American is completely exhausted. What happened? What are we missing here? Why are we all so tired? We know that at least 1/3 of Americans are not getting enough sleep. Who put the sleepy pills in a lemonade? Let's take it a step further. I think tiredness has become a competition here in the US. I mean, the American office is like a constant litany of humble brags / boasts of how tired we are. Thank goodness for coffee. I slept for 4 hours last night. Oh yeah, well I was driving here with one eye open on the I-94 because I only slept for 2 minutes. Competitive exhaustion, we've seen this be coined. We've somehow demoted the old idea of 8 hours of sleep. Get it out of here. It's so old. And now there's this strange wave of scientific talking heads going on about how most of us don't even need 8 hours of sleep. That is just straight up silly. Big facepalm energy. Most of us have never even felt what it's like to consistently get 8 hours of uninterrupted, regular, deep, real, high quality sleep, enough to even compare it to not getting that. What we're doing is looking for scientific reasons to vindicate us staying up all night and getting bad sleep and somehow justifying it with very, very, very loose science. Being a sleepy Susie or a tired Tyler is not just social contagion, though. There is an impact that our physiology is garnering, and it's often overlooked. So that's the plan in this video, to go over what we have going on in our culture, from how we eat to how we move, that has us feeling tired 24/7. It seems a crop of YouTubers spring up a few times out of the year to address the subject. But what if we're all missing something? Here's 4 lesser known contributing factors that have driven the entire nation to constant exhaustion. Our first culprit is postprandial somnolence. Being chronically fed. You see, Americans, we like to eat, and eating makes us tired. Why is that? When the stomach and intestines fill with food, there are mechanical receptors that detect the stretch of them, or what we call distension. Once these mechanoreceptors detect a certain threshold of stretch, they send a signal in order for us to, you guessed it, stop eating. This is the primary function of the signal sent to the brain from stomach distension, translating to that familiar feeling of fullness. Okay, so stop eating, I get it, but how this signal couples to then make us feel tired is fascinating. You see, the signal from our gut is sent to the brain through the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is known as the main component, not the main nerve, the main component of what we know as the parasympathetic nervous system. The parasympathetic nervous system, known to be the system that engages our rest and digest mode. So when we hear vagus nerve, we can automatically form that association between the vagus nerve and resting and digesting. Eating is such a huge deal. Get this, we're taking things from the outside world, transporting them into our body. Our body is then tasked with breaking these things down into manageable building blocks to then throw them into the circulation and allow those things to then turn back into us, right? We're taking outside resources and turning it into us. That's quite the significant uptake that takes a lot of energy and focus. So the signal we've been talking about isn't traveling through the vagus nerve for the sake of fullness alone, but it's also signaling, hey, it's time to process everything that's happening. And get this, for the longest time, researchers were under the impression that the body was redistributing blood to the gut, the small intestine, and the stomach area to respond to the high demand of new food. And in that same breath, deprioritizing the activity in our limbs, our more distal figures of the body. And that is actually what was sending us to the couch full of itis. And that all makes sense, but it turns out that's actually not what's going on. You see, the hypothalamus of the brain is all up in the mix of what's going on. There's a duality to it, with one part that is responsible for arousal, called the LHA, and is usually stimulated when we're hungry. In the other corner, we have the VMH, which regulates satiety. The two's influence are mutually exclusive, meaning if one is promoted, the other is demoted. Imagine if you had 2 personalities in you, thinking 2 completely opposite thoughts. That's your hypothalamus every hour of the day. two-faced. And so we find food enters the stomach and intestines, communicates some stimuli, one of them being distension, right? That stretch of our digestive organs, which then shoots a signal through our vagus nerve that lands in the hypothalamus and says to the VMH, hey, we got food down here. Let's start being satisfied. And so it's the vagus nerve's association with the parasympathetic nervous system. That's one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is VMH being upregulated and inhibiting LHA, which we know to promote arousal. Johnny, why are you saying all this? I'm describing it this way because the research would suggest that it almost as if sleepiness is an accidental occurrence after we have our meal. But post-meal sleepiness, I'd suggest, is not an accident. It makes perfect sense for the body to centralize focus on what we just did and taking in outside resources and turning them into us. Again, I'll never be able to overemphasize that enough. It is a huge undertaking. So our bodies are meant to relax after eating. So what's the problem? The issue is timing. We are chronically fed. Some researchers argue we snack more than ever before, and what we snack on is growing in size. We make ourselves full more often. In fact, we make it a point to eat every single time we're hungry. And that's an American culture thing. We actually don't have to eat every time we're hungry. And some of you are probably gonna look at me like I'm absolutely crazy, but that actually is the problem. Being hungry isn't the problem. Our perception around being hungry has always been the problem. When's the last time you just sat with hunger and were okay with it? Because our physiology actually expects us to have periods of not eating. It's called fasting. The second reason is breakfast. A big breakfast can activate rest mode just when we're supposed to be the most awake and alert. And this one isn't necessarily our fault. You probably heard that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. It's actually a prehistoric meme. It was spread by Sigmund Freud's super online nephew, Edward Bernays. Bernays was a public relations professional, propagandist, who was interested in selling more bacon. To market bacon, there are basically two options. You can say bacon tastes good, or you can say you need bacon to live. Bacon is good for you. The first works fine, but the second is irresistible. Bernays created a petition that said heavier, high-protein breakfasts are healthiest. Then he got as many doctors he could to sign it. He sent it to a newspaper, they published it as if it was a scientific discovery, and boom! Now everybody believes in a big breakfast and feels like napping before our first Zoom call. Our society is not exactly designed with high activity in mind. Every day, 1 in 4 of us are sitting for over 8 hours a day. And I pulled that from a pre-pandemic study that was measuring folks in 2015. Estimates pulled later in 2019 find 9.5 hours being the amount of time the average American is sitting. We are sitting. When we regularly expend energy, we actually end up getting a lot back. It sounds counterintuitive, but hear me out. Exercise upregulates skeletal muscle sirtuins. Sirtu who? It's okay if you haven't heard of them, because you have heard of the powerhouse of the cell, known as, I just feel like you are saying it, mitochondria. And sirtuins contribute to the production of mitochondria. But Johnny, that still doesn't really explain why they're important and what this has to do with being tired and all that stuff. Okay, let's talk about it. Sirtuins are enzymes. Enzymes help to speed up the chemical processes of the body. Enzymes are like the pit crew of F1 racing. Could you imagine if a racer that needed a tire change had to do it himself? If he had to unharness 1,000,000 buckles, get out of the vehicle, pick up the tools, and change out his tires one by one. It would get done, but it'd be a very inefficient process and stupid. Thank goodness the body ain't stupid, so it uses enzymes. Your body's mitochondria can literally be increased in number. Why does this matter? Mitochondria is only produced to meet a higher need. That means we can exercise, right? Run, jump, skip, lift, and move our body to stimulate sirtuins to spur on the making of more mitochondria. So these sirtuins ultimately optimize the body's usage of its energy substrates, glucose, fat, burning them more efficiently. In the same breath, allowing for a greater energy capacity because we have more mitochondria. And what the body makes more of, it seeks to maintain. In other words, simply existing after you do exercise will energize you. All right, we found it fitting to include our friends over at FlexiSpot for this part of the video. They have literally solved my sitting problem. For the longest time, like many of you, I was glued to my chair for work. I would have days where I felt like a glob and couldn't do anything because I needed to spend that time at the desk to get things done. I felt trapped, sitting. I always wanted a standing desk, but didn't think I could afford one of those fancy things. But then I found FlexiSpot. FlexiSpot is an ergonomics company. They make stuff that makes work way better. I've been able to stand as I work with their E7 Pro standing desk for months now, and I almost can't believe the energy I've had return to me. I found the freedom to be upright, right? To have my core and glutes activated, to even put my foot up on a stool and engage in different positions, or the ease of transition from working to taking a dance break. I don't want to get emotional on y'all, but I love it. I thought I'd get this thing and do the occasional stand, maybe 20 minutes there, 30 minutes there, but I lie not. Since I've had this thing, I probably spend 20 to 30 minutes sitting out of the 6 to 8 hours I spend at it. I found that sitting made me more prone to sluggish work. When standing, my body feels more engaged, my thoughts flow better, and work feels less like a chore. It's one of those luxuries that once you experience, you can't go back from. You guys can enjoy $50 off of FlexiSpot's E7 standing desk line with my code below. Check the description. You're looking to invest in a piece of equipment you'll have for the rest of your life. I mean, this thing is durable, made of solid, sturdy material, and easy to put together. It's like Legos. If sitting begets sitting, then standing begets standing. More activity, that's what we're aiming for. And my shoulders, traps, lower back, just all these pressure points and angles and joints, they actually were feeling the pressure from just sitting all day at the desk. Now I feel great relief, and my body's been thanking me. It's been a very enjoyable experience. I think it'll be enjoyable for you as well. Get your energy back, invest in standing, get $50 off of the E7 Pro standing desk from FlexiSpot. Thank you, FlexiSpot, for sending me this desk and being a supporter of No Lab Coat Required. All right, let's take it back. If we feel tired, why can't we just rest? Right? We can forego the breakfast, the heavy breakfast, and we can maybe take a jog. That'll give us a little energy back, right? But what if we're just still tired at 3 o'clock? What if we just want to take a nap? You can't. It's not allowed in America. We don't take naps because you got a Zoom call at 3. And unfortunately, you have another one at 4. And another one 4:45. If you've ever been to Spain, you know that it's pretty difficult to buy something in the mid-afternoon. Everything seems to shut down like clockwork. It's called a siesta. Siestas exist across many cultures as a natural lull in the midday. It's actually genius, and it's been completely phased out of America. A recent report explained it like this: from siestas in Spain and Nigeria, riposas in Italy, and Idlib in the look, we rest so little in here I can't even pronounce them. People around the world proudly practice napping. But in the United States, napping is considered a sign of laziness and a lack of ambition. That last part is really important because think about it. Everything we said up to this point was kind of inflicted upon us by external influence, right? Advertisers got us snacking. Corporations have us sitting. Society has us forfeiting rest in order to produce productivity. And that's something that we as individuals internalize. I know I have. Those dang TikToks of people's crazy morning routine. But I'll admit, mine may not look like that, but I have a hustle system too. Maybe we like to chant around how tired we are because it implies how hard we work and how late we stay up to get things done and how productive we are. In short, we've adopted hustle culture. To really recharge, it's easy though. We need to just rest for less than 30 minutes in the midday. They call it a NASA nap. NASA found that 26 minutes was just enough to increase alertness while avoiding sleep inertia. Any longer and your body may automatically initiate deep sleep, which could leave you feeling groggy, plus mess up your sleep schedule. It's a balance. We're humans. We're dealing the best that we can with the circumstance in these flimsy bodies. Ooh, I like this one. Peer pressure and bed rotting. Why are Americans so tired? Do we hustle more than we used to? Yes. And we're looking to do something about it, especially Generation Z. If society says you gotta get something done, you can reject that and do the complete opposite. Find yourself a big blanket, roll up under it, and scroll for 6 hours straight. Looking to reject hustle culture, we've sought pathways to reintroduce rest into our lives. And almost as a form of protest, we are going against the toxic nature of the grind. And that's a good thing, until it became a bad thing. The pendulum swung too far. What started as us reclaiming self-care, right? It has evolved into bed rotting. Bed rotting is our way of saying no to the exhausting pressure of hustle culture, but it's not necessarily saying yes to the right method. And I do recognize part of this is the impulsive, even compulsive nature of the phone and its attractiveness for it to basically just take us away from reality, and it sucks us in. Time flies by. We don't even realize we just spent 50 minutes on that thing, and we walk away with literally zero value. Phones are bad, but that's a tangent. Okay, let's reel it back in, because it's not like the phone is inherently bad. The use case where we use the phone right before bed, though, is worth magnifying and looking very close into, because our bodies are very sensitive to light, highly responsive. We have photoreceptors, not only in our eye, but all over the body. And our genes actually expect us to coordinate with the sun, the biggest and brightest light that there is. Rise when it rises and go our butts to bed when it falls. That is to say that the sun and light in general is actually the greatest influence on our metabolic rhythm. And I fall for it too. You see, light naturally causes us to become alert, and artificial light has granted us the ability to be entertained at any hour of the day. Like, forget what the sun's talking about. We could just, and our body responds to that. We would be naive to think that it wouldn't. So by falling asleep with this thing in our face, we are inducing wakefulness when we need it least. This classic study measured sleep quality of people who read before bed using a light-emitting device and people who read the old-fashioned way, words on a page. Experiencing that light from their devices led them to feel less sleepy. They still got to sleep, but it took longer. Plus, they experienced a reduced secretion of melatonin, the good sleep hormone. In the morning, they were less alert. That night session from the artificial light juiced up their alertness in the evening and robbed their alertness from the morning. I think those of us that are chronically tired all have nuanced issues going on, and the extracurricular things, they can fall by the wayside if we don't first focus on securing 8 good hours of sleep. Good being a very important caveat there, because we can still go to sleep and even sleep in and have the phone in our face and communicate that light right into our eyes, and we'll go to sleep, get 8 hours fine, but that's not going to be high quality sleep. Let's focus on getting that quality sleep first and then see how we feel and try all the other things. So what can we do to remedy? Recap: eat when you're hungry, not when you feel you're supposed to. Don't give in to cultural pressures. Get moving. Sitting all day begets sitting all day, but I promise your body will thank you once you nail that exercise routine. A short rest is worth your time. I know it's done good for me. It has even arrested the part of me that wants to hustle. Those Mediterranean countries are onto something. The great news is everything here is within our control. So be inspired. Keep your head up if you can, and on a pillow if you need to. I hope you guys gained some insight and perspective from this one. I'm gonna get about y'all way.